The autumn air bit at Marcus Jensen's exposed skin as he tracked the deer through Blackwater Forest. His breath formed small clouds in the crisp morning air while he moved silently across the forest floor, his experienced feet finding purchase on terrain he'd known since childhood. At 42, with 15 years as a professional wilderness guide behind him, he preferred these solitary hunting trips, just him, the forest, and the rhythm of nature. The deer's trail led him deeper into the forest than he'd planned, to an area even locals rarely ventured. Marcus paused, noticing something unusual. Broken branches high up in the canopy, as if something had crashed through. "What the hell?" he muttered, momentarily forgetting his hunt. A strange, melodic humming sound drifted through the trees. Marcus gripped his rifle tighter, moving cautiously toward the source. Beyond a thicket of dense underbrush, he found a small clearing and froze at the sight before him. A figure knelt by a small stream, definitely not human. Its skin shimmered with an iridescent blue-green hue, catching the filtered sunlight penetrating the forest canopy. The being appeared feminine, with delicate features and large, almond-shaped eyes that reflected the forest around them like prisms. Her body was slender, almost fragile-looking, and a wound on her arm leaked a silvery fluid. Marcus stepped on a branch, and the crack echoed through the clearing. The creature whirled around, those extraordinary eyes widening with fear. "Please," she spoke, in perfect English but with an accent that seemed to dance between syllables. "I mean no harm." Marcus kept his rifle lowered but ready. "What are you?" "My name is Alara," she replied, her voice musical and soothing. "I am, not from your world." "No kidding," Marcus responded dryly, maintaining his distance. Alara stood slowly, wincing from her injury. "I did not intend to come here. My vessel malfunctioned. I am the last survey scout of the Seleno civilization." She gestured weakly toward the forest canopy. "Or rather, I was." Marcus took a hesitant step forward. The alien, Alara, seemed genuinely injured and in distress. His hunting instincts told him she posed no immediate threat. "You're hurt." "Yes. The crash damaged my physical form. I will heal, but I require shelter and time." Marcus approached cautiously, examining the silvery fluid leaking from the gash on her arm. "I have a first aid kit in my pack." As he dressed her wound, an uncomfortable silence hung between them. Marcus had 1,000 questions but couldn't find the words. Finally, Alara broke the silence. "You were kind to help me, though I sense your fear. Wouldn't you be afraid if you found an alien in your forest?" Marcus replied, securing the bandage. Alara's lips curved into something resembling a smile. "My people once had a saying, fear is the shadow cast by understanding not yet arrived." "Deep," Marcus said, packing away his supplies. "So why Earth? Why this forest?" Alara's expression turned somber. "Not by choice. My species, we are dying out. A pathogen devastated our civilization centuries ago. I was sent to find compatible species for genetic preservation." "Compatible species?" Marcus frowned. "My kind reproduce through genetic bonding. We can blend our essence with compatible beings to create offspring that carry our legacy forward." Her prismatic eyes met his, intense and pleading. "I never expected to need this knowledge. But now, stranded here, it may be my only hope, our only hope." Marcus felt a chill that had nothing to do with the autumn air. "Are you saying what I think you're saying?" "I need your help," Alara whispered, her voice barely audible over the rustle of leaves. "I need to create a child, to ensure my species doesn't disappear entirely from the universe." The rifle suddenly felt heavy in Marcus's hands. This morning, he'd been tracking deer. Now, an alien was asking him to help father a hybrid child to save her species. "This is a lot," he managed. "I understand," Alara said, her luminous eyes downcast. "But I have nowhere else to turn." A gust of wind stirred the trees around them, sending a shower of amber leaves spiraling down. In that moment, looking at this strange, beautiful being from beyond the stars, Marcus felt something shift inside him, curiosity overwhelming caution. "My cabin's about 3 miles north," he said finally. "Can you walk that far? We can figure out, whatever this is, somewhere warmer." Relief washed over Alara's face. "Yes. Thank you." As they began their trek through the forest, neither spoke. Marcus occasionally glanced at his unusual companion, still not entirely convinced he wasn't hallucinating. One thing was certain, his solitary life had just become infinitely more complicated. The cabin came into view as dusk settled over Blackwater Forest. Marcus guided Alara up the wooden steps to the porch, noticing how she moved with an otherworldly grace despite her injury. The one-room structure was modest but comfortable, a refuge he'd built with his own hands after leaving behind his former life as an aerospace engineer in Seattle. "It's not much," Marcus said, lighting the wood stove, "but it's safe." Alara surveyed the space with curious eyes. "Your dwelling is organic. My people lived in cities of crystal and light." As warmth filled the cabin, Marcus heated soup while Alara examined his bookshelves with fascination. Her slender fingers traced the spines of engineering texts and astronomy books. "You study the stars," she observed. "I used to build things that flew among them, before I chose this life instead." Marcus set 2 bowls on the table. Do you eat?" "Yes." She joined him, studying the soup cautiously before tasting it. Her eyes widened. "This is intensely flavorful." Over their meal, Alara explained more about her civilization. The Seleno had been explorers and scientists who had achieved interstellar travel millennia ago. Their biological adaptability had been their greatest strength and ultimately their vulnerability when the pathogen struck. "How many of your people are left?" Marcus asked. "Our final outpost had 37 survivors when I departed. That was 3 of your Earth years ago." Her voice carried a melody of sorrow. "My mission was to find compatible species and bring back genetic samples. And now your ship is destroyed." "Yes. I cannot return." She set down her spoon. "You must have questions about what I proposed in the forest." Marcus leaned back in his chair. "About 1 million. My species reproduces through a process of genetic fusion," Alara explained. "We exchange cellular material with compatible beings, creating offspring that carry traits from both parent species. And humans are compatible? Preliminary scans suggest possibilities." Her iridescent skin flushed slightly. "The process is not mechanical or clinical as you might imagine. It is intimate, sacred, even." Marcus felt heat rise to his face. "Like human reproduction?" "Similar in emotional significance, though different in method." Alara's eyes met his. "The exchange creates a temporary psychic bond between parents. Thoughts, memories, emotions, all are shared during the union." The implication hung between them as the fire crackled in the stove. Outside, calls punctuated the silence. "I understand your hesitation," Alara said finally. "I would not have chosen this path. But I am alone now, the last of my kind on your world. If I die without offspring, an entire civilization dies with me." That night, Marcus gave Alara his bed while he slept on the couch. Sleep eluded him as he stared at the ceiling, mind racing with impossible scenarios. Part of him, the logical former engineer, still couldn't believe an extraterrestrial being was sleeping in his cabin. Another part felt an unexpected connection to her plight. Dawn brought rain tapping against the windows. Marcus found Alara by the glass, watching water cascade down the panes with childlike wonder. "Rain is rare in my world," she explained without turning. "Your wound looks better," Marcus observed, noticing the silvery fluid had stopped leaking. "Yes. My cellular regeneration is functioning." As days passed, they fell into an unexpected rhythm. Marcus taught Alara about Earth's forests, showing her different plants and animals. She, in turn, described distant worlds and advanced sciences that made him regret abandoning his engineering career. One evening, as they sat before the fire, Alara demonstrated her species' natural bioluminescence, causing patterns of light to dance across her skin. Marcus watched, transfixed, as the cabin filled with shifting blues and purples. "It's beautiful," he whispered. Their hands met on the couch between them. The touch sent a strange electrical current through Marcus's arm, not unpleasant, but intensely intimate, as if some part of her consciousness brushed against his. "That's part of how we bond," Alara explained softly. "A precursor to genetic exchange." Marcus didn't pull away. Instead, he found himself leaning closer, drawn by something beyond logical explanation. "I'm starting to think this isn't just about saving your species for you anymore," he said quietly. Alara's luminescence pulsed brighter. "No, it is not." As their fingers intertwined more firmly, the cabin seemed to fade around them. For a brief moment, Marcus glimpsed fragments of another world, crystal spires catching the light of twin suns, and understood this was only the beginning of what joining with her might reveal. 3 weeks after finding Alara in the forest, Marcus woke to the scent of coffee. He found her in the kitchen, attempting to operate his old percolator. "I observed you making this stimulant," she explained, her brow furrowed in concentration. "The chemistry seems simple, yet the mechanism is challenging. Marcus smiled, taking over. Some things can't be learned just by watching. Sunlight filtered through the windows, catching the subtle iridescence of her skin. She'd taken to wearing his flannel shirts, which hung loosely on her slender frame. The sight stirred something in him that went beyond the fascination of discovering an alien being. "You're staring," Alara noted, her head tilted curiously. "Sorry." Marcus poured coffee for them both. Still getting used to all of this. They sat at the small kitchen table, a routine that had become comfortable despite its strangeness. Outside, the first snow of winter dusted the forest. "I need to go into town today," Marcus said. "We're running low on supplies." Alara nodded, though concern flashed across her features. In their time together, she'd never been alone for more than a few hours. Every moment apart felt increasingly difficult for both of them. "I'll return by sunset," he promised, reaching across to touch her hand. The contact sparked that familiar electric sensation, stronger now than when they'd first touched. Over the past weeks, these moments of connection had grown more frequent and intense. Each time, Marcus glimpsed more of her world, her memories, the vastness of space as seen from her ship, the crystalline cities of her homeworld, the devastating spread of the pathogen that had nearly extinguished her people. In town, Marcus moved mechanically through his errands, his thoughts never far from the cabin and its extraordinary occupant. At the general store, Dave, the owner, commented on his distraction. "You seem different lately, Jensen. Got someone special up at that cabin of yours?" Marcus froze momentarily before offering a non-committal grunt. "Just busy with some projects." "Uh-huh," Dave replied skeptically. "Well, whoever she is, she's good for you. First time I've seen you look alive in years." The observation followed Marcus back to the cabin. Was it that obvious? Had Alara awakened something in him that had been dormant since he'd retreated from society? He found her outside, palms upturned to catch falling snowflakes that melted against her warm skin. "Your world constantly surprises me," she said as he approached. So much beauty in its simplicity. That evening, as they sat before the fire, Marcus finally addressed what had been building between them. "I've been thinking about what you asked me, about helping you have a child." Alara's luminescence pulsed subtly. "And, at first, I thought it was impossible. Crazy even." He stared into the flames. "But these past weeks, getting to know you, I'm not sure it's just about saving your species anymore. For either of us." She moved closer, her weight shifting the couch cushions. "The genetic bonding I described, it creates life, yes. But the process itself is deeply meaningful. My people don't enter into it lightly." "Neither do humans, ideally," Marcus said. "At least not when it comes to creating children." Their eyes met, his brown ones meeting her prismatic gaze. "I want to show you," she whispered, "what the beginning of the bond feels like. If you're willing." Marcus nodded, his heart racing. "Show me." Alara took both his hands in hers. Immediately, the cabin seemed to dissolve around them. Marcus gasped as his consciousness expanded, touching hers. He felt her loneliness, her determination, her growing affection for him, emotions so similar to human feelings yet with complex layers he couldn't fully comprehend. "This is only a fragment," her voice echoed in his mind. "The full bonding is much deeper." When they separated, minutes or hours later, Marcus couldn't tell, tears streaked his cheeks. "That was." "Yes," she agreed, her own eyes glistening with silvery moisture. Marcus took a deep breath. "I'll help you, Alara. Not just because you need it, but because I want to." Her luminescence flared brilliantly, bathing the cabin in blue-green light. "The process requires preparation. There is a ritual, both scientific and spiritual for my people. Tell me what we need to do." That night, they prepared the cabin according to her instructions. Certain mineral crystals from a nearby stream were arranged in patterns on the floor. Alara mixed solutions of herbs and elements that Marcus gathered under her guidance. As midnight approached, they sat facing each other in the center of the crystal pattern. Alara's skin glowed with increasing intensity as she began a soft, melodic chant in her native language. "Now," she whispered finally, extending her hands. As their palms met, reality shifted. Marcus felt himself falling into her consciousness, even as she fell into his. Their memories intertwined. His childhood in Michigan, her training among the stars, his failed marriage and retreat to solitude, her desperate mission to save her kind. The boundaries between them blurred, dissolved, reformed. Their physical bodies began to glow with shared bioluminescence as the genetic exchange commenced at a cellular level. The process was both intensely intimate and utterly unlike anything in human experience. Not sexual, yet deeper than any physical union. When consciousness returned, Marcus found himself lying beside Alara on the cabin floor, their hands still clasped between them. The fire had burned low, and moonlight streamed through the windows. "Did it work?" he asked hoarsely. Alara placed her free hand over her abdomen, her expression one of wonder. "Yes, a new life begins." Outside, the snow continued to fall, covering the forest in pristine white, a blank canvas for their unprecedented new beginning. The pregnancy progressed with startling speed. Within 2 weeks, Alara's slender frame showed visible changes, her abdomen gently swelling with the hybrid life growing within. Marcus learned that Seleno gestation lasted only 2 Earth months, an evolutionary adaptation that had helped their species survive on harsh worlds. "The fetus develops rapidly," Alara explained one morning as Marcus prepared breakfast. "My body is accelerating the process further to accommodate human genetic patterns." Marcus placed a hand on her stomach, feeling a distinct flutter beneath his palm. The sensation sent a rush of emotions through him: wonder, fear, protectiveness. "I can sense its consciousness forming," Alara said, her eyes bright with emotion. "Both Seleno and human thought patterns. It's extraordinary." Their shared connection, forged during the bonding ritual, had not faded entirely. Occasionally, Marcus caught glimpses of Alara's emotions, particularly when they touched. These moments of telepathic connection grew stronger as the pregnancy advanced. Winter deepened around the cabin. Marcus ventured into town less frequently, concerned about leaving Alara alone for too long. On his necessary trips for supplies, he began noticing subtle changes in the townspeople's behavior. Whispers followed him through the general store. The local sheriff, Alan, watched him with narrowed eyes. On a frigid January morning, as Marcus loaded supplies into his truck, the sheriff approached. "Strange lights been reported up near your cabin, Jensen," Alan said, his breath forming clouds in the cold air. "Like nothing folks around here have seen before." Marcus kept his expression neutral. "Probably just the northern lights reflecting off the snow. It gets pretty bright up there some nights." "Northern lights don't usually pulse in patterns," Alan replied. "And they don't typically send interference through every electronic device in a 5-mile radius." Marcus's stomach tightened. Alara's bioluminescence had intensified with the pregnancy, sometimes filling the cabin with light visible through the windows. He hadn't considered it might be noticeable from a distance. "I'll keep an eye out," he said casually. "Probably just some weather phenomenon." "Maybe." Alan didn't sound convinced. "Some folks are talking about putting together a search party, checking the area for unusual activity." The implied threat hung between them. Marcus forced a laugh. "Good luck with that. Nothing up there but me and the deer." The drive back to the cabin was tense, scenarios playing through Marcus's mind. If anyone discovered Alara, the consequences would be catastrophic. For her, for their unborn child, probably for him too. He found her by the window, her luminescence bright enough to cast shadows across the room. When she turned, her face showed pain. "What's wrong?" he asked, dropping his bags. "The child is developing faster than expected," she gasped. "My body is struggling to adapt." Marcus helped her to the bed, panic rising. "What can I do?" "Certain minerals, from the stream," she managed. "Like those we used in the bonding ritual. They help stabilize the genetic integration." Despite the bitter cold, Marcus spent hours knee-deep in the partially frozen stream, collecting the crystalline formations Alara had described. By nightfall, his hands were numb and bleeding from scraping against rocks beneath the icy water. Inside the cabin, he found Alara curled on her side, her skin flickering with erratic pulses of light. He crushed the crystals into powder as she instructed, mixing them with water. As she drank the solution, her breathing gradually steadied. "Better?" he asked, brushing damp hair from her forehead. "Yes." She took his damaged hands in hers, her touch healing the worst of the cuts. "But this is just the beginning. The hardest part is still to come." That night, as they lay together, Alara guided his hand to her abdomen. Through their lingering mental connection, Marcus sensed the child, tiny flashes of developing consciousness, bright and curious. "It knows you," Alara whispered. "It recognizes your genetic signature." Tears burned Marcus's eyes. "I never thought I'd be a father. After my marriage failed, I gave up on that dream. And I never expected to find someone like you on this distant world." Her fingers traced his jawline. We have transcended the purpose of my mission. This is about more than species preservation now. Their moment of connection was interrupted by the distant sound of engines. Marcus went to the window, peering through the curtains. Headlights cut through the darkness at the base of the mountain road leading to his property. Someone's coming, he said, heart racing. Multiple vehicles. Alara's luminescence dimmed instantly. The sheriff. Probably. Marcus moved quickly, gathering essentials. We need to leave. Now. There's an old hunting cabin deeper in the forest. It's primitive, but it might be safe. As they prepared to flee, Alara doubled over suddenly, clutching her abdomen. The stress is triggering changes. Brilliant light pulsed through her skin, impossible to hide. Outside, the vehicles drew closer, headlights bouncing along the uneven road. Marcus made a split-second decision, scooping her into his arms. We'll take the back trail. They won't be able to follow in vehicles. Through the snowy forest they fled, Marcus carrying Alara despite her protests that she could walk. The mental connection between them flared with their shared fear and determination. Behind them, voices called out as the sheriff and his impromptu search party discovered the empty cabin. The old hunting blind was little more than a shack, but it was well hidden in a dense thicket. Marcus settled Alara on a dusty cot, building a small fire in the ancient stove. They'll search for us, he said, his voice low. But they don't know these woods like I do. Alara's luminescence had faded to a soft glow, her body conserving energy. The child sensed our fear. It's calming now. Marcus took her hand, their consciousnesses mingling. He felt the infant's presence, stronger now, more distinct. Not just a potential life, but a being with awareness, already learning from both its parents' minds. Whatever happens, he promised, I'll protect you both. Outside, snow began to fall again, covering their tracks as they huddled together in the darkness, 3 hearts beating as one unlikely family. The birth came during a fierce blizzard, 1 month after their escape to the hunting blind. Wind howled around the small structure as Alara's luminescence filled the space with pulsating light. Marcus held her hands, their mental connection amplified by the intensity of the moment, allowing him to share her pain and joy simultaneously. It's coming, she gasped, her body arching. Marcus had prepared as best he could, studying his medical reference books and gathering supplies during brief forays back toward civilization. Nothing, however, could have prepared him for the reality of helping deliver a half-human, half-Seleno child. The birth itself lasted mere minutes, another evolutionary adaptation of Alara's species. When the infant finally emerged in a flash of brilliant light, Marcus caught the tiny being in his trembling hands. A daughter, he whispered, looking down at the miracle they had created. The child's skin held a subtle iridescence like her mother's, though more subdued. Her features blended both parents perfectly, Alara's large, luminous eyes set in a face shaped more like Marcus's. 5 delicate fingers on each hand, though with the distinctive elongated proportions of the Seleno. Aurora, Alara said softly as Marcus placed the newborn against her chest. In honor of Earth's light phenomenon and the stellar nurseries of my home system. Aurora, Marcus repeated, his voice thick with emotion. Perfect. Within hours, the infant was alert and responsive, another trait of her mother's species. Her eyes shifted colors as she took in her surroundings, processing information at an accelerated rate. Through their continuing mental bond, both parents sensed her rapidly developing consciousness, curious, vibrant, and unique. The days following the birth brought an unexpected peace. The blizzard had sealed them off from the outside world, creating a cocoon of safety. Marcus maintained a constant watch, but the sheriff's search parties had been driven back by the weather. One evening, as snow continued to fall outside, Alara sat feeding Aurora by the small stove. The mental connection between mother and child was visible as subtle pulses of light passing between them. She learns through the connection, Alara explained. I'm teaching her about both our worlds. Marcus watched in wonder. Will she be able to connect with me the same way? She already does, Alara smiled. Haven't you felt her presence in your mind? Marcus realized he had. Gentle brushes against his consciousness, like small fingers exploring a new texture. He focused on the sensation, opening his thoughts as Alara had taught him. Immediately, Aurora's awareness flooded his mind, bright, joyful, and filled with unconditional love. Without words, she conveyed recognition of him as her father, her protector, her link to this world. Marcus wept openly at the intensity of the connection. She's perfect, he whispered. She's more than that, Alara said. She's the first of something entirely new. As weeks passed, the search parties diminished. Spring began to thaw the forest, bringing new life that mirrored their own small family's growth. Aurora developed at an astonishing rate, already crawling at 2 months old, her mind expanding even faster than her body. They had returned to Marcus's cabin, finding it untouched since the night they fled. The sheriff's interest had apparently waned after finding nothing suspicious beyond abandoned belongings. One warm evening, as sunset painted the sky in brilliant hues, Alara suddenly tensed while sitting on the porch with Aurora in her lap. "What is it?" Marcus asked. "A signal," she whispered, her eyes distant. "Faint, but distinct. From space." Marcus sat beside her. "From your people?" "Yes. A distress beacon from a Seleno vessel." Her voice trembled. "They survived. At least some of them." Over the following days, Alara worked tirelessly to reconstruct communication equipment from salvaged parts of her crashed ship. Marcus helped where he could, his engineering background proving useful despite the advanced technology. When the makeshift transmitter was finally complete, they stood together in the clearing where they had first met, Aurora cradled between them. "If we respond, they will come," Alara said solemnly. "It would mean revealing your world to my people. Is that dangerous?" "No. The Seleno are peaceful explorers. But it would change everything. For us. For Aurora." Marcus looked down at their daughter, who reached up with tiny iridescent fingers to touch his face. Through their connection, he felt her contentment, her sense of belonging to both worlds. "What do you want?" he asked Alara. She gazed at the evening star appearing in the twilight sky. "When I crashed here, I thought I had lost everything. My mission, my people, my future." Her eyes met his. "Instead, I found something I never expected. Something precious." "But they're your people," Marcus said gently. "The last of your kind." "Not the last anymore," Alara replied, looking at Aurora. "She carries the Seleno legacy forward, along with humanity's. She is the future I never imagined." They stood in silence as darkness fell, the weight of the decision hanging between them. Finally, Marcus spoke. "They deserve to know they're not alone. And Aurora deserves to know her heritage, both sides of it." Alara nodded slowly. "Yes, but I won't leave Earth. Not now. This is our home." Together, they activated the transmitter. A beam of energy shot skyward, carrying their message to the distant survivors. "We are here. We have found a new beginning." As the signal pulsed into the cosmos, they brought their foreheads together, forming a circle with Aurora between them. Their mental connection flared brilliantly, 3 consciousnesses intertwining in perfect harmony. In that moment, boundaries dissolved, between species, between worlds, between what was possible and impossible. Their small family stood as living proof that the universe's greatest miracles often began with the simplest of connections, a chance encounter in a forest, an impossible request, and the courage to say yes to the unknown. Aurora's laughter bubbled between them, her tiny body glowing softly in the gathering darkness. Above, the first stars appeared, distant suns around which other worlds turned, other possibilities waited. Whatever came next, they would face it together, hunter, alien, and child, a new kind of family forging a path never before traveled.